Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call our Monday, January 11th, 2021 council meeting to order, Fayetteville City Council. At this time, we will have we're glad that you all are joining us virtually. We have council members Waddell, Ingram, Wright, and Hare, and you all can confirm your presence online. Welcome, council members.
Councilmember Ingram present. As far as I can tell, Mayor Colvin, I am the only council member online, and city attorney is here as well.
Okay.
Online.
All right. And Ms. McDonald, welcome. All right, council, at this time, we will ask that we will do the invocation. Have one pastor here with us tonight. Ask that we will please stand for the prayer. At the conclusion of the prayer, let us repeat in unison the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's always my honor to pray. Let us bow our heads. Gracious Father, we thank you for this day you've given us. It is a day we've never seen before, and we pray, God, that what we do today, what we've done today, that it honors you according to the purpose that you ordained before the beginning of the earth. God, right now we ask for wisdom, and with that knowledge and understanding, we ask that you would make us of one heart and one mind so that we might do the work of the people. We ask that you would bless this nation. Once again, draw us closer to you and to each other. For only you can heal us. Only you can fill the cracks and crevices of our hearts and in our lives. So we submit our nation back to you and our community back to you so that you might make us in your likeness and in your image. On tonight, help us to do the work so that others might live better. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Councilman Davis, for the prayer. Councilman Wright is on, and Hare is waiting on Zoom, so we'll give it a minute for those things to populate. Council, just before we go into approval of the agenda, under the announcement section, I'd like to first say something that I think needs to be said in some regard. I know there'll be some other discussion about it tonight. But today was a day that a lot of things may have been misinterpreted. This council back in early December made a decision. Well, we were faced with the question, first of all, that the riding in and around the Market House would either need to be redone or decommissioned, and the council, by consensus, we were on break, if I'm not mistaken, but by consensus, which means the majority of council, when asked, made a decision that the temporary wording be covered, not replaced. There were some council members who wanted it replaced with other words, but at that time, until we figured all of that out, we had asked the manager to decommission the wording around the Market House. This is in December. No one had the forethought or knowledge or premonition of the unfortunate events that would happen last Wednesday that we all witnessed in our nation's capital. And when the manager awarded the contract, the contractor, I guess, took those things in consideration as execution of the contract, but maybe not the sensitivity. I do know that this council takes very seriously racial equality. I commend them for being one of the few in the state of North Carolina to take the bold step of making such a statement and putting that Black lives do matter, and racism is not welcome in our community, in racism in our community after the unfortunate events of last summer. And so we want the public, as that is being considered and discussed today, to understand that I haven't spoken to one council member who is insensitive and would have done this in any way to be disrespectful to any of those sensitive topics. We are a community of diversity, and we will continue to do the things that make sure that all of our citizens know that we love and appreciate and respect their diversity. And so with that being said, there'll be a number of comments tonight. During our public comment section, we are restricted from commenting, and so I wanted to make sure that we spoke those things. incredibly bad timing, but certainly was not anything egregious or intentional to hurt the feelings or to be insensitive to anyone's beliefs. And so personally like to apologize when we make mistakes. I have to own up to it, and I've spent the day explaining things as best I understand it. And so with that, we'll learn going forward, but we'll move to the approval of the agenda. Councilman Dawkins, before we approve the agenda.
Yes, sir. This is a special day in the Dawkins family, and I just wanted to explain it because a lot of folks may not know much about me because our city changes every so many years. But my daughter turns 30 today. She was born a little after 6 o'clock at Cape Fear Valley Hospital 30 years ago. When she was 3, she had her first ependymoma brainstem tumor that had to be surgically resected at Cape Fear Valley. When she, a couple months later, when she turned 4, she had chemo for 10 months, and Jill did great. And then when she was 8, she had her second brain tumor and had to have surgery at Duke, and then followed by twice-a-day radiation for 90 days. Donna, my wife, and I took turns going back and forth, staying with her, and she was in school while she was up there. And today, she is a nurse, thank the good Lord, and out of the 700 kids under age 18 that had brain tumors at Duke in 1994, there are 2 survivors, and one of them is Jill Dawkins, and she's 30 years old today. So why the Lord left her here, we don't know, but we're thankful, and she has a tremendous feeling of responsibility. And my dad, who was mayor for 13 years, called his granddaughter his hero, and Dad would take her to many different events, and while she was bald, of course, with no hair, and because of her chemo and her treatment. So thank you, Mayor, for letting me take this personal privilege. It's in the record. She's working right now, so she can't watch her dad, but I'll tell her to pull it up. She knows how to do all this internet stuff. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Great testimony, and I think the Lord left her here to keep you straightened out. So we'll keep hopeful of that'll happen eventually. All right. Council, with that, we'll look for approval of the agenda with the modifications that we discussed. Mr. Manager, Mr. Manager?
Addition of the item?
Yeah, yes, that was the modification. All right, Council, let me clear the board. I don't know who hit first, but we'll need to add the item mentioned, 7.01. So you have a question? Yes, ma'am. Press your button for me. Okay. Councilmember Banks McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mayor. I do want to, once we approve the agenda, I would like to suspend. Can you hear me? Oh. Thank you, Mayor. Once we approve the agenda, I would like to approve the agenda, and I would also like to suspend the rules and add the demolish of the Market House onto our agenda this evening.
Procedurally, I don't think you need to suspend the rules. This is a regular meeting, so everything is already official. So what you would do would be to make a motion to consider whatever new items, and you'll need
that's what I was
a two-thirds vote. So
I'm aware.
okay, all right. So Councilman Dawkins, was that a question before we moved on? Vote. All right, all right. So Mayor Pro Tem.
Yes, did we add on the master agreement for broadband, or I know that we added, but did we?
That will need to be added with the approval of the agenda.
Okay, I apologize.
All right, Council, so this is to approve the agenda with the additions as you state. So we need a motion by someone for that.
I make a motion.
All right, please state it. So Mayor Pro Tem, your motion?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
With the addition?
With the addition for 7.01 for the master agreement for broadband.
Okay. There's a motion by Mayor Pro Tem to approve the agenda with the addition of item 7.01. Councilman Davis, is that your light on for a second? All right. There's a motion and a second to approve the agenda with the addition of item 7.01. Any discussion on the motion? Jen? Who is? Councilman Hare?
No, sir, I was just trying to make the motion, but it's already done.
Okay. All right, I'll clear the boards. All right. Council's motion, properly second. Seeing no discussion, I'll look to you for your vote. Council members Wright, Hare, Ingram, and Waddell.
Wright, Green. Hare, Green.
Ingram, Green.
Waddell, Green.
All right. Madam Clerk, I believe that's unanimous by those joining us virtually as well as in chambers. All right, Councilmember Banks McLaughlin.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to make a motion to do a up and down vote. Well, first I would like to we'll ask council to suspend the rules and to take a up and down vote for the removal of the market house. Well, I'm sorry, the demolish of the market house.
So, Madam Attorney, I know Ms. Donald's on. I don't, you don't need the suspension of the rules because this is a regular meeting, right? Okay, so you need so Councilmember Banks has made a motion to add an additional item to the agenda. I guess it would be 7.02, or is there a second to the motion? Councilmember Kinston, that's a second.
Yes, sir, I would like to second the motion, but I would like to explain why
Okay.
I'm seconding the motion. At this point, Mayor, there's been a lot of conversation back and forth regarding the marketplace. We did have our committees, so I think at this point that it is beneficial that we do go ahead and make a decision with an up and down vote. If that vote does not pass, then it does give us the option to be able to look at repurposing. But I think at this point, it just needs to go on record of where we stand and go ahead and get that taken care of.
Okay.
So I do second the motion.
There's a second by Councilmember Kinston. Any discussion? Who was that? Okay. Any discussion? Councilman Davis, you had a discussion?
Yes, I have a question. Would the councilwoman be willing to amend her motion to reflect transformation of the market house, repurposing of the market house versus simply tearing it down and then having to have another discussion about what comes next? I said, would the councilwoman be willing to amend her motion to go to repurposing and transformation versus simply tearing it down without having a next step? Because I think we've all expressed a desire to see it reflect unity, the future, the present, and not simply the past. And I think there's a lot of great ideas that we've talked about individually. But I was just wondering if you might be open to that, or do you want to just do an up or down vote and then go to the next step?
No, I would like to do a up and down vote, and if someone is interested in repurposing it, then they can put it up for,
Okay.
for a proposal or for an up and down vote.
Okay.
All right. Councilman Dawkins, you had a question?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. Last week, we voted by consensus to instruct the city manager to come back in 90 days with some options for us to repurpose the market house. So what I don't understand is we've already done that vote, and now we're being asked to do another vote to demolish the market house. So,
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Madam Attorney.
I apologize. First, given where you are, you need a vote on whether to add the item.
Right.
If it gets the 3/4 vote, then the ensuing
Then
discussion
we'll, okay.
would
Okay.
take place.
All right.
That would be the
Thank you.
appropriate place.
All right. All right. All right. So, council, as clarified by the attorney, the first decision made is to add this item tonight. And then once that's added, then I guess there'll be a vote on the item if it's necessary. So, This time I'll look to you for your votes to add this item to the agenda tonight. All right, council members Wright,
Red.
Councilmember Hare,
Red.
Councilmember Waddell,
Green.
Councilmember Ingram.
Green.
All right, Madam Clerk, I'll read these off. Those voting in favor of adding the item tonight, not a decision on the item, but to addition of the tonight's agenda. Those voting in favor, Councilmember Banks McLaughlin, Kinston, Waddell, and Ingram. Those voting opposed, Councilmembers Davis, Dawkins, Wright, Hare, Colvin, and Jensen. All right. Item 7.0 is the public forum.
Consent.
Sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. Consent. Item 6.0 is the consent agenda. Council, I'll look to you for motion on that. All
Mayor
right.
Colvin, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Okay. All right. So there's a motion by Councilmember Ingram. There's a second by Councilmember Dawkins. Any discussion? Any discussion on the motion? All right, Council, I'll look to you for your votes. Who has a vote? Okay. All right. Madam Clerk, that is, Councilman Wright?
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
This is voting on the consent.
That's a green.
All right, Councilmember Ingram?
Green.
Councilmember Waddell?
Green.
Councilmember Hare?
Green, sir.
All right, Madam Clerk, that's unanimous. Motion carries. Item 7.0 is the public forum. The public forum is the time that Fayetteville residents may have input and a voice on what goes on in their city. Due to policy restrictions, the forum will not last any longer than 30 minutes, and each speaker will be limited to only 3 minutes to address the City Council on issues related to the City of Fayetteville. Individuals wishing to speak at tonight's public forum should have signed up with the City Clerk prior to the start of tonight's meeting. If you are here to speak on items that may be on tonight's agenda under the public hearing, ask that you would reserve those comments until the public hearing. So when your name is called or you're recognized via phone, those who are joining us, please state your name and home address. Then when you're given your time, you'll see the light turn to green. When you have 30 seconds, the light will turn to yellow. And when the light is red, that means your time has expired. Again, due to policy restrictions, we're unable to extend the given time. And with that being said, Madam Clerk, let us know about your speakers.
We have 13 speakers signed up for this evening. Our first speaker is Mr. Wayne D.
Mr. Wayne D. Mr. Wayne, are you on? Mr. D, can you hear us, sir?
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members, for your service to your community and our great people of America's hometown. Many of you already know you are either hindering your great-grandchildren or benefiting all of our great-grandchildren. The question to you is, do you really believe you have created a better tomorrow or tyrannical, totalitarian, authoritarian mess? Have any of you considered the consequences of your actions you allowed your citizens to endure and or the oppressive tactics you allowed to be deployed and or the fear of an invisible enemy to fester as they did to our people in 1918? By the actions you knew beforehand, by the actions you allowed to happen and blessed off on, and by the actions you continue to allow that has placed a very dark cloud above your head as what is outside as I speak to you. On behalf of our great people, I ask the following question. 1, how long does it take you to answer any of our questions? 2, since your election to this or the office in which you hold currently, what exactly have you done to stop the oppressive behavior you seem to have allowed? 3, since your election, exactly how have you benefited the people you represent and are to serve? 4, how many jobs have you created since you got elected? 5, when have you held a town meeting when you answer questions asked from those that supposedly elected you? 6, when is the next town hall meeting whereas the citizens of this city can ask you questions and listen to your solutions? 7, when was the last time the people in this city voted for higher taxes, since you all allowed a 20% hike in solid waste taxes? 8, when was the last time the people in this city voted for higher property taxes? If we never voted for higher taxes, pay raises, or extortion fees, then how did you make it better for the generations to come after you? Lastly, because of what I just heard, to demolish the market house from Banks and McLaughlin and then seconded by Kingston, I say no. Where's the vote from the people for that? I'll wait for your responses.
Thank you, Ms. D.
Mayor, our next speaker is Mr. Page Leo. I'm sorry, Mr. Leo Page.
Mr. Page, are you there?
No, he's not available. Okay, our next speaker is Miss Kathy Greggs.
Ms. Greggs, are you there?
Good evening. Hello, everyone. Hello, hello, Mayor Mitch Colvin. Hello, council people. Yes, my address is 4607 Woodline Drive, Fayetteville, North Carolina, 28314. I first would like to say I really appreciate Councilwoman McLaughlin stepping up to the plate on asking to demolish the market house. I really believe because that we have not pushed forward in any efforts to actually listen to the people of the citizens of this city. And there is no shown fact that we are really actually dealing with the racial equalities here in this city. And that shows because no policies has been implemented since George Floyd's death. Also, I would like to make sure we address the fact that we have been sending, as Fayetteville PAC, binding resolutions to end cash bail here. Also binding resolutions for the Citizen Review Board that still has not been implemented here in this city. So before we say that we are as leaders is compassionate to the situation that happened in Capitol Hill, I believe we need to make sure we're compassionate to the situations that's here that needs to be addressed. We are still dealing with police accountability issues. People are still dying from our police department. No one's being held accountable. We're transferring police officers without letting the people know. You have a $20 million federal lawsuit for a wrongful imprisonment of Andrew Willis. You have a $7.2 million lawsuit for the wrongful imprisonment of Gerard Atkinson. So until we address and eliminate the toxic leadership here in Fayetteville, then we can move on and say that we don't have racial issues. Until then, we do, because we have a market house that's surrounded Black Lives Do Matter instead of Black Lives Matter. We still have racism here in our police force. We have racism here on this council, and we all need to make sure we address the real issues at home before we go and try to address issues abroad. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Griggs.
Mayor, our next speaker is Ms. Brown.
Ms. Brown, are you there?
She's not available. Okay, our next speaker is Mr. Nathan Cuffey.
Mr. Cuffey, are you there? Mr. Cuffey, can you hear us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Nathan Cuffey. I live at 719 Market View Court in Fayetteville, North Carolina. Good evening, Mayor Colvin and council people. I am one of the many invested in our downtown area of Fayetteville. I come to you today asking that you reconsider the future of any verbiage around the market house. Recently, the district presented you with a new statement to replace that, to replace the Black Lives Do Matter and End Racism Now, which has already been removed from the circle. The district brought you the words, "We find a way, we care for one another, and we always go further." A statement not only of unity, but of a desire to persevere and grow together. If you guys were to take a look outside of the very doors of City Hall, you will see a community of residents and businesses that live these words every day. We love on each other, we support each other, and we fight to thrive and push for a better future, not only in downtown, but for all of Fayetteville. But that starts at the heart, and downtown is at the heart of Fayetteville. A city which, honestly, right now, as we've heard from many other speakers, is desperately in need of a message of unity. Mayor Colvin, if I may speak to you directly, I would like to recall a time when you first took office. You challenged the citizens and city workers to become one Fayetteville, an admirable goal to set when you first took your position. Although there's still a lot of work to be done to get to that place, a simple statement of unity is another step in that direction, and something that, as I stated before, is really needed in our area. And as you guys consider the future of the market house, anything that goes around it, please do take this in mind. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor, our next speaker is Mr. Mario Benavente.
Mr. Benavente, are you there?
Yes, sir, Mayor Colvin. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, sir.
My name is Mario Benavente at 3549 Hastings Drive in Fayetteville, North Carolina. I want to begin by saying, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate you at the very beginning noting that this was a mistake this afternoon to allow for this contract to proceed, especially considering the context of today's news cycles, the domestic terrorism that occurred at our Capitol. And I also want to thank very specifically Councilmember Banks McLaughlin. Twice now, you have made such an impression on me for taking decisive action when it comes to the necessary change that the city needs. Previously, Fayetteville Pact put on a presentation and gave great data, and your instinct was to make a motion to proceed with that information that you were given, as opposed to sort of punting the ball and just waiting for the next time that some kind of kerfuffle were to occur again. And you showed that same sort of courage today. And that's really what I'm here to speak about to the rest of City Council. I really want to see that kind of courage come from each and every one of you. This idea that we have to continue protecting each other as though you can't have any record or any criticism or any debate or any sort of vote without 100% consensus is actually really damaging to our community. If you are going to continue to insulate those who would perpetuate lies about election fraud, those who would perpetuate lies about what's been happening in our country over the past 4 years, you're not doing a service to the community that is asking and fighting for truth and reconciliation to happen in this country before we can move forward, and that applies to Fayetteville itself. So please, all of the council members here, I think it's important to recognize that when you put this art installation down on paint, it wasn't something that everyone was really asking for. It was a bit of a performative act that we accepted with grace, but what we really want is actual substantive legislative change when it comes to police accountability, when it comes to law enforcement reforms. And until then, you're going to continue to hear from us, and you're going to continue to feel this pressure, and hoping that we don't pay attention to it because you've allowed certain resolutions to expire really aren't going to be a way to avoid the criticism. We've got a growing community of activists here in Fayetteville, and we're very much keeping an eye out on exactly what's being said by our elected officials, and we have a very high standard for what we expect for you to produce in those years that you're going to be serving us. And if those expectations aren't met, I think it's really important for everyone to realize that you got a lot of young people out here that are ready to out-hustle you and are ready to take those titles from you if you're going to continue to sort of kick the ball down the road and not take action on work that our city staff has done great research on. It's time to go ahead and say yes to some of this great research that you've been given, as opposed to hoping that everyone forgets about it.
Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Our next speaker is Mr. Sean Mcmillan.
Good evening, Council. 6024 Golden Range Drive. Good evening. I'm going to go off script a little bit, just because I am inspired as well to speak on the courage that was displayed by Councilmember Banks McLaughlin. First of all, that first caller was way out of line. I'm not here to yell at you. We respect you all and we love you all as people. We want you to do better on behalf of us, on behalf of the citizens. Especially with the new year coming, there's an opportunity for you to be more bold in your stance and being pro-reform when it comes to issues of justice. Councilmember Banks McLaughlin, we appreciate you just for showing the courage that you did to bring that decision to demolish the Market House to the table. I believe that the majority of the city is with you, but it takes the intestinal fortitude to actually put the decision on the table for anything to happen, and that's what we've been lacking. I'll also share Mario's comment and note that you are the only member to date that has really given the green light for us to move ahead on the CPOA, and that's originally what I plan to talk to you all about. Our community still needs a civilian police oversight authority and a CRP. We need an independent oversight of the police. Just to go back, this is the 7th time we've spoken to the city council in the last 16 months, the 7th time. We're tired, but we're not tired enough to stop. We're going to keep on coming back until something changes, until there's substantive policy change. We were there in October of 2019 before many of you even were inducted into the council. And we asked back then for the old council members, the outgoing council, to show some courage and to put the CRB on the table. We're back this year. We came back last year and asked for a CPOA, a Civilian Police Oversight Authority, and a CRB. And all these months later, a year later, there's no change. Last summer, there were a lot of performative gestures. We need for you to move beyond those gestures and actually put some policy into place. I think what Mario was referring to is something that Dr. King, especially with his birthday coming up, he referred to people being more devoted to order than to justice. He talked about people who prefer a negative peace, which is the absence of tension, to a positive peace, which is the presence of justice. So I urge you all to have some moral courage. Please work on behalf of the people to make substantive policy change. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Madam Clerk?
Mayor, our next speaker is Ms. Maya Warren.
Ms. Warren?
How are you doing, Mayor?
Hey.
And members of the city.
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Warren.
How are you doing, Mayor and members of the City Council? I am outside, unfortunately, so you're going to hear a train. But I do want you to understand that on today, I'm disgusted. I am offended, and I feel like you have slapped me in my face. Each and every one of you took an oath to protect and stand for the citizens of Fayetteville, North Carolina. And each and every one of you have truly disappointed me on today. Let me ask you a question. What example did you set as a leader for the city of Fayetteville on today? You allowed a mural to be removed without so much as a vote. But let me tell you about the power of a vote. The power of the vote is what's going to happen when this election comes up, and everybody who has not stood for this community will be removed. You guys mean to tell me a week after thugs take over the Capitol, a week before Martin Luther King Jr. Day, weeks before Black History Month, that you choose now to remove the mural? What do you really stand for? Are you telling us that Black Lives Matter temporarily? Are you telling us that what we stand for, that the nights that the Ville's Voice sat outside and camped, that was only temporarily, that what we wanted we could only get temporarily? You have disappointed me. I am disgusted because none of you have spoke out about said issue. Yes, the mayor did say he made a mistake at the beginning of the meeting, but I challenge you to correct your mistake and put back the mural, because we will not stop. I will call into every single meeting if I have to until the mural is brought back. I really salute Ms. Banks McLaughlin for trying to add this onto tonight's meeting, because the Market House has to go. It is not something that the citizens want, and it is about time that the people that we hired and voted for, work for the citizens of Fayetteville. But I tell you this today, that the same way the youth, the city, the state, and the country showed out for this election, Cumberland County, the city of Fayetteville, we will show up in this local election. And everybody who has not stood for us, everybody who has not helped push the agendas and help to better Fayetteville, North Carolina, will be removed. You will be fired. We no longer want you to stand for us. We no longer want you to work for us. It's not a threat, but it is a promise. The youth are taking the stand, the elders are taking the stand, and we are not here for it. Once again, I am disgusted, I am appalled, and you are absolutely wrong for what you have done. And whoever pushed for this to be lifted today, I definitely want you to stand and say, I chose for this to be done because I have some words for you. And my words aren't nothing nice at all, because you are wrong. You are hiding behind a position, and you are pushing an agenda that the people of Fayetteville do not want. So I challenge you to stand up and do something about it. I don't want your apologies. I don't want that this was a mistake. I want you to be about action. Stop hiding behind desks. Stop hiding behind positions, and actually be about what you talk about. If you can't do that, then you cannot represent me. And you cannot do that in this upcoming election, I will not vote for you. If anything, Courtney Banks McLaughlin can be my mayor for all I care. I'm finished.
Thank you.
Mayor, our next speaker is Miss Pandora Harrington.
Ms. Harrington, are you there?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. First off, I want to thank you guys for giving me the opportunity to speak. I appreciate it. Mitch Colvin, Mayor Mitch Colvin, I heard what you said at the beginning of the meeting when you said about apologizing and standing up and recognizing whenever you are wrong, and I appreciate that. However, we are living in a time right now where we're desperate. We are out here fighting for equality. We have so many things and so many battles that we are facing today, and it was very insensitive. And I really want to make y'all understand that, or to let y'all understand that it was very insensitive. It's heartbreaking. It is frustrating when you are out here day in and day and night and trying to get a message across. And every time you get that message, try to feel like you got that message across, you have, there's no outlet. You hear what we're saying, but no one is trying to even begin to get that, to start the conversation, to understand where do we go from here. And it's no other words that I have other than the fact that I really want to express, just like me and other people, we are angry. We are upset because it feels like you guys don't hear us. It feels like you guys do not care. And as an elected official and as a leader, I feel like it is your responsibility to understand that when you go home tonight, to understand that you have a lot of citizens out here that feel the same way that I feel. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Harrington.
Mayor, our
Madam
next
Clerk.
speaker, is Miss Pamela Carter.
Ms. Carter, are you there? Ms. Carter, can you hear us?
Yes, here. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, council. I just want to say that I admire you guys. It takes a lot of guts to step up and step out and, try to please an entire city. And kudos to every single one of you. And please just, don't be intimidated. You represent your district, and that's a lot of differing views. So please just, take everybody's views, think on everybody. We have to be inclusive, and that's not what I called about. I was just listening to all these other callers, and I feel for everybody's opinion and everybody's views, but there's more. There's city. Our city is big, and everybody can't call into this program. So there's just a lot of differing views out there, and represent everybody. Okay. The main thing I called about, I wanted to call to congratulate our city and the Murchison Road residents for the $450,000 grant that y'all got for them. I think it's wonderful. I'm very happy for them. I live in the B Street neighborhood. I'm not sure I even gave my address. I think I was supposed to. 505 Link Street. We're right off of B Street, which is right off of Person, just a few blocks from downtown. It's a small little neighborhood. It's Adams Street, School Street, Link Street, Minor Street, surrounded by Person, Eastern Boulevard, and Grove Street. And we were told by the city, that we would be focus revitalization neighborhood. And to my understanding, you know, the city even went so far as to hire a city planner specifically for that, and her name was Sharon Stevens. I don't think she's employed with the city any longer. But we had a few meetings where city officials were involved, Sharon Stevens, the city planner, the city partners like PwC were in these meetings, and there was a lot of talk, but the meetings never really came, you know, surrounding business owners were invited, but nothing ever really came out of those particular meetings. We have had some successes, and I'm very, very grateful for those, especially with Habitat for Humanity coming into the neighborhood, building new construction, affordable homes for folks. We've got some fabulous neighbors. We're a diverse little neighborhood. You know, we have, like I said, we have our issues, and everybody there, I'm sure, is for, you know, I don't have to go down a list because we've been doing it for years. We see police chiefs come and go. We see city council folks and mayors come and go, and we're still here. We're still.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Our next speaker is Ms. Chance.
Ms. Chance, are you there? Ms. Chance, can you hear us?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. We have
Hello. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Mayor Colvin, and all the city council members. I thank you for allowing me the privilege tonight to come before you. But tonight, I just wanted to say, because I found out today that you was removing the mural of the Black Lives Matter. And yes, I was disappointed, but I assume that y'all made that decision for the safety of the American or the citizens of Fayetteville due to what happened last Wednesday and with the upcoming riots that they're saying that armed riots that's supposed to take place within our U.S. Capitol and our state capital in Raleigh. But I just want to say that we must not turn a blind eye to the racism and the violence, but we must choose hope over fear, and we must unite as a great country and a great city of Fayetteville, North Carolina. We must keep each other informed and allow every American citizen and citizen of Fayetteville to take part. If we're going to remove the mural or if we're going to remove the market house, you must allow us the chance to take part and be a part of that history to move on to something great. You cannot move on to something great if you don't allow the citizens of Fayetteville, if we all continue to vote every election year, to take part. We must be able to take part in that. I don't know all that is going on, but I'm just saying, please let the citizens of Fayetteville take part in being able to choose, what to take part, what is to go there, if you're going to remove the market house or if you're going to remove the mural. But we want to keep our city safe. We don't want our city to have the violence, because I denounce violence, racism. We should all denounce violence and racism. We want to be united, because a city and a country that's divided will not stand. We must unite in order to stand. And we have seen that last Wednesday with our president invoking lies, it only creates hate. We must choose fear. We must choose hope over fear and not create hate. So please, keep us informed and let us be a part of the process. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Chance. Madam Clerk.
Now, our next speaker is Miss Angela Tatum Malloy.
Ms. Malloy, you there?
Yes, I am.
All right. You have the floor.
Good evening. Good evening, Mayor and council members. My address, 404 Pilot Avenue. I just want to, I wrote an email into the council members and I wanted to read that, and then I'll add additional comments. And so I will start off with reading the email. Dear council members, last week our nation faced its darkest days as we were attacked by our own American citizens. We all know that this is as a result of white supremacy that has been allowed to remain alive in our nation. It seems that we are allowing it within our own community as well. I am currently the president and CEO of an organization that is fighting for our Black mothers and Black babies right here in this county, where 3 times of our Black babies are dying more than white babies, and 2 times of our Black mothers are dying. And this is at the hands of systemic racism and white supremacy that has infiltrated our local healthcare system. What makes my fight even harder is having a council member, such as Council Member Johnny Dawkins, who sadly and unfortunately represents my District 5 Haymount District. And this district has been special to me because I grew up here. I've been in this district 50 years. My mother integrated Terry Sanford. I went to Alma Isom, which is the school that my granddaughter goes to currently. And so we have, history here, but we have also known that the racism that has plagued us in the past, that currently stands today. And when Mr. Dawkins made his ludicrous comments about the lies that were told by our president, Mr. Dawkins, he showed empathy with the thugs that terrorized our nation's capital while showing his racist bias towards the Black Lives Matter protesters over the summer. As I watched how he made comments, his facial expressions in making those comments, and his tone in making the comments. Just as it is dangerous to have a president that spreads lies and incites a racist mob, it is equally dangerous to have a council member doing the same thing locally. What is equally dangerous is to have his fellow council members and you, Mayor, to allow such rhetoric to be spread publicly in this reckless, irresponsible manner and not allowing Mr. Dawkins to be accountable for that. What I would like to make sure, and I want to support what Maya said, take heed what happened in Georgia. We know that when we come together, we will win in what we are going to accomplish, and you will lose. And there will be some changes in the council member because we have too much work to do, and we cannot allow council members such as Dawkins and Waddell and Davis to stand in the way of us making progress and dismantling racism in our community. Thank you very much.
Mayor, our final speaker this evening is Mr. Chelenko Hurst.
Mr. Hurst, you there? Mr. Hurst, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we got you.
Good evening. With all respect, I'm grateful for the opportunity to come speak before the council. And in the beginning, I'm very thankful that you, Mr. Mayor, had enough gumption and fortitude to come on and just apologize to the citizens, because in some people's eyes, an apology is a sign of weakness. It's not too many people who call themselves adults that do apologize. So I will give you that. Now, the purpose of me calling in today is to voice my displeasure of the mural that it was just basically scraped up today, because that's how people of color in this country feel presently today after the incident of last Wednesday. Because we all know how that would have went if it was any civil rights organization attempting to storm the Capitol building. We know how it went, because right here in Fayetteville, we had peaceful protests, and they just attempted to go around the slave market house downtown 7 times, and someone made the call for the National Guard to come down, and on the peaceful protest, they bared their arms against those citizens in Fayetteville. You ain't got to look to DC to find wrongdoing with our so-called leaders and law enforcement in the judicial system. You don't have to look far. Right here in Fayetteville, we have incidents of misjustice committed by whether it be former head of the Public Defender's Office here in Cumberland County, whether it be officers, misconduct, murdering, shooting, or assaulting unarmed citizens right here in Fayetteville. We don't have to look to DC, Florida, or anywhere else. We have these same problems right here. And what saddens me with the current climate, and Mr. Johnny Dawkins, so you're gonna have some issues to deal with. because like the previous caller just said,
That seems like a threat to me, Mr. Mayor. He called me out personally.
Well, you know how much my name's been called tonight, so we just gotta.
Chief, are you keeping track of this? Do we know who this person is?
Let him finish his thought, Mr. Dawkins, because I'm not sure he's talking about physical. I heard him going. Well,
He said I'm gonna have problems to deal with.
But he said like the previous caller who was talking about an election. So let's hear what he's got to say.
there you go.
Mr.
I
Hurst.
speak very fluently, and thank you for interrupting me for those last 20 seconds. City Council Member, Mr. Dawkins.
Go ahead, sir.
really-
We stopped the time. You have your time.
Yes, and I'm at the point of disgust because it wasn't enough thought put into the dismounting of the mural, just like it wasn't enough thought put in. We've come to find out we have right here in the city of Fayetteville those who traveled to Washington, D.C. had positions of authority to participate in that domestic terrorism. We don't have to look far outside the city for the ringlets of racism and discriminatory tactics. And like one of my comrades said earlier before, that CRP and CRV, we need to reissue and review that and put action into that civilian review board. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mayor, we have no further speakers.
All right, we'll close the public forum. A couple things I need to respond to those who are watching, just so they know. Citizens Review Board authority is granted by the state of North Carolina. The legislature gives special provision to cities to do it. We passed resolutions that ask for that special permission to be done, like Raleigh, Greensboro, Charlotte, Asheville, Winston-Salem. On 2 different occasions, the legislator, our local delegation, failed to support it, so it went nowhere. Spoke to one of the members in the majority party the other day before we have our delegation meeting next week, and he stated that no such authority has been granted over the last 10 years, to his knowledge, by the Republican legislature to grant special provisions for cities to create review or oversight boards or whatever you would call it. So some of the conversation that needs to happen needs to be directed to our local representatives in the General Assembly, because the City Council cannot do it by law without the state giving us permission. And so I just wanted to put that fact out there, and there's some who already know that, and there's some who don't. But I just wanted to make sure that we were clear on that. So we'll move to the added item, which was 7.01. There was an item to consider the agreement for broadband master operations agreement. I think the motion was to, well, Mr. Manager, you want to explain? Oh, Mr. Van Gens, hadn't seen you in a while. About 30 minutes.
Ms. Kinston, did you have? I'm pushing my button.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Kinston?
Yes, Mayor. I would like to ask the council to recuse me for this item for discussion, if we can do a vote on that, please.
All right, Council. So Councilmember Kinston is requesting a motion for recusal based on.
Mayor Colvin, I'd like to, she needs a motion?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mayor Colvin, I'd like to make a motion to recuse Councilmember Kingston from
Second that motion.
voting and discussion on this item.
Okay, there's a motion. Thank you, Councilmember Ingram. There's a motion by Councilmember Ingram. The light was pushed by Councilmember Dawkins to second that. Any discussion on the motion? All right, Council, I look to you for your votes to recuse Councilmember Kinston. Councilmember Wright?
Green.
Councilmember Ingram?
Green, Mayor Colvin.
Councilmember Waddell?
Green.
Councilmember Hare?
Green, sir.
All right, Madam Clerk, that's unanimous by those voting. All right, Councilmember is recused. Mr. Van Gens.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. As discussed and when presented initially, the City of Fayetteville, your staff, our partners with PwC have made broadband deployment and enhancement in providing affordable and ubiquitous access to advanced technology is a primary goal for economic development, community development, and quality of life. The same holds true for the county, our municipalities, and our delegation. But Fayetteville is where it all begins, as it should be in this case. And so what you have before you are a series of amendments to an ordinance that you had adopted previously, Chapter 24. It is a refinement on actions you took to spur competition and greater accessibility to providers who wish to serve your citizens in this arena. The second item is a master operator agreement. In essence, what it sets forth is a series of policies and procedures so that the city and its staff, if you authorize the execution of this by the manager, will be able to move quickly and nimbly, working with a company to deploy broadband across your city and out into the county and surrounding communities.
Thank you, Ms. Van Giens. Did have a question before council take action on this. Madam Attorney, there was some concern with some legal indemnification issues. Were those issues resolved, or is that something that is still in work, and this would just be a motion to give the manager authority to execute once you've completed that?
I believe Mr. Allen's here and
Oh,
can respond
okay.
to that.
All right.
Good evening, council. My name is Paul Allen. I'm your new assistant city attorney working upstairs with
Welcome,
Karen.
sir.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yes, that actually has been addressed. The indemnification is clearly stated within that master operations agreement, so there's no question as to its viability and its implementation within this agreement.
Thank you. All right, council. Any questions for Mr. Van Giens? If not, Mayor Pro Tem, is that your button?
Did you see
All right.
my?
I see yours. You have a question? Yeah. Okay. All right, Mayor Pro Tem, and then Councilman Dawkins.
Okay, after I get done with my heads done, I'll do. How many jobs is this going to bring to us?
On the temporary side, and I would encourage you to speak with the company, but on the temporary side, you will see a very, very large number, as with any sort of deployment like this, but they will be mostly contractual employees, so it will generate a lot of economic activity. The company, if they do announce moving forward, would have a storefront here, permanent service representatives and technicians. And I would say that I put this with a grain of salt and ask you to confer with them. We were looking at 20-plus full-time jobs in addition to the contractual positions.
Okay, perfect. And this, again, this will put broadband all over our city, so there'll be no spots, and especially with COVID, we would have loved to have had this a year ago.
Yes, yes. And your development here will anchor its expansions out into the county, where we do have some significant gaps in accessibility. It'll be available to our students, for our small businesses, and in the towns around here. But without the density and the economic engine that is Fayetteville, that wouldn't be feasible and possible.
So the last thing that I want to say is I know that this has been a long road and getting everybody to collaborate together, and I'd like to personally thank you. I'd like to thank the mayor, the city manager, PWC, and the city attorney, because I know this has been a long process and nothing comes easy in government, and the process takes a long time, but congratulations to everybody.
Thank you very much. I would like to say, though, if I may add, Dr. Whitfield has been there, the other side of the
Absolutely,
coin.
I
throughout.
apologize.
No, thank you. It's a great team.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem, Councilman Dawkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Van Giens, has Metrolink done these types of installations in other cities in North Carolina or in the South?
They have done over 90 cities now. So
Over 90 cities, like in southern United States?
they across the country, from Indiana, but down to Florida, Kentucky. This would be the absolute first installation they have in North Carolina. So we would be their first community.
Excellent. And as the Mayor Pro Tem said, thank the mayor for his work on this, Dr. Whitfield, and the city manager and the whole staff, especially yourself, coordinating with our Public Works Commission utility. This is a big win for our citizens, because the ability for broadband is going to create economic development for many, many years to come, and hopefully it'll help our school system too. The quicker we get this in, the more these young people, if we got to stay out another year in doing their work. So I echo the Mayor Pro Tem's comments. I'm sure the mayor has some comments he's going to congratulate you too, but congratulations, thank you. And I appreciate you showing the city and PWC working together for the good of all our citizens. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And I think that their commission owes a debt of thanks for working with us through that at the PWC, and their new CEO, Elena Ball, has just been wonderful to work with as she's come in as well.
Thank you, Councilman Dawkins. Councilman Davis.
Yes, Mr. Van Giens, for clarification for those citizens who are really excited about the potential of getting broadband, could you speak for a second to its impact on low-income people who can't afford free internet access?
Yeah, I would say there are two things. I'd say one being that assuming we're able to move forward, we hope to have a lot more information for people tomorrow and for the public if we're able to move forward tonight and take this back to the company so they can finalize their plans and their decisions. But with regards to those that need it for telecommuting, for distance learning, for telemedicine, more and more folks having to rely on it. We have over 40, this census block group right here, more than 40% of the homes do not have an internet connection. And then this census block group that we sit in right now, and that is common throughout our city. So there's both accessibility, the infrastructure that parts of our community do not have where they cannot access it, and affordability. This company is interested in working with us on that. We are also in discussions right now on a series of grants. They can provide very, very low cost access to broadband. And I think it's also something as part of your engagement with your lobbyists and the federal delegation, that these are things that we can look to both on the state and federal level to provide programming, just as we once did to provide people access to telephone and those important things for medical emergencies. We now need to have that available for people with broadband.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to make a motion that we accept the master operations agreement for broadband. Am I saying the wrong thing?
Second.
All right. I think the council understands what you're saying.
They were looking at each other, so
all right.
We're
So
good.
there's a motion by Mayor Pro Tem. Someone second on the line. Who was that?
Councilmember Ingram.
Okay. So there's a second by Councilmember Ingram. Discussion phase. Again, Mr. Van Giens, I know this has been a commitment by you and members of PWC. What's the dollar amount of this investment anticipated?
This will greatly exceed $70 million worth of investment here in our community.
So $70 million in technology and infrastructure in the city of Fayetteville.
And that is nothing to say about the jobs it'll create, maintain, and what it'll do for our citizens to be able to work, create, and grow their businesses and have their children access education in these troubling times. So,
fantastic.
Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, if I could as well, over here. This also tracks on one of council's long-term strategic planning goals, Smart City. So this is, I want to thank Robert Telly and PWC for helping bring this to fruition.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. All right, council, motions on the floor by Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Mayor, does that motion also include the amendments to the ordinance?
Yes, ma'am.
So,
I understood it as approved as to what was presented to council, which included the amendments.
Yeah. So there's a motion by Mayor Pro Tem to accept the agreement and then give authorization to the city manager to execute the agreement as presented to the council, including the amendments. There's a second by Councilmember Ingram. It's been discussed. Council, I'll look to you for your votes on this item. Councilmember Ingram.
Green.
Councilmember Waddell.
Green.
Councilmember Wright.
Green.
Councilmember Hare.
Good move, sir. Green.
Green. All right. All right, Madam Clerk, that is unanimous by those voting, 9-0. All right. Congratulations, guys. Item 8.01, Mr. Manager.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. This item will be presented by Cliff Isaacs.
Good evening, sir.
Yes. Good evening, Council and Mayor. It's good to be here. You can see through the CCAM that you have on your screens. You'll see the update to the Senior Center West project. So this Senior Center West project has a background, and the background, of course, is the following. Through the 2015 Park and Recreation Bond project, it was developed using voter consideration. This package included several new projects as well as renovations to existing park projects. Voters approved this package and work has been completed on a number of projects to date. As originally planned, the Senior Center West project was delivered through a construction manager at risk project. This contract, we had a new contract April the 23rd, 2020, was previously selected by the CMAR, and they provided a cost update, which was substantially more than we had budgeted in the past. So with that, the architect, the CMAR, and the city staff took actions and value engineered the product. A more optimal site plan and layout, as well as interior elements, were considered and modified accordingly. Through thoughtful consideration, September the 30th, 2020, the city terminated the CMAR contract for the construction of Senior Center West because the city determined it was unable and unwilling to move forward on the project. What the city did was we made a decision to traditionally bid the project out in the traditional bid form. The project was advertised and was publicly consistent with the law. A voluntary pre-bid meeting took place on December 1st. So on December the 22nd, the city opened bid from licensed GCs for the construction of Senior Center West and accepted 5 general contractors' bids. All 5 included the bid bond, acknowledgement of the programs and agendas, and had the appropriate signatures. The base bids ranged from roughly $6 million to $6.4 million, with the average bid being approximately $6.2 million. The low base bid was $5.95 million, and that was done by a company out of Raleigh, Cooper Tatia. Accepting alternates 1, 4, 5, and 9 together will increase the base bid $21,000. As you see here below in the CCAM, alternate 1, we're going to deduct for the operable wall partitions. The city can provide that. The dance studio, we can add an alternate ceiling for the design, as well as an alternate ceiling room. It's on a kind of a secondary ceiling in the exercise room. Alternate 9 deals with a cement board siding and brick exterior around all sides of the building instead of just one. Preferred alternates A and B had no cost, so obviously we would accept those. So the city has also obtained pricing through the Park and Recs with Mr. Gibson on pricing on the kitchen and exercise equipment and the furniture for the center. This total cost is approximately $281,000. There's also additional items that the city would include, such as a mulch trail, service yard with ABC stone, landscape and lighting, sod, irrigation meter, the sleeves, bioretention plantings, the landscaping, the entrance sign, the parking lot lighting, the road lighting, the data equipment, wiring, security system, special inspections, the permit, the survey, the benchmark, those 3 operating partitions we took out from the base bid through the alternate, and management through the construction management department. These costs are included in the contingency below. Now, contingencies are used for unpredictable changes. For Senior Center West, it was recommended that a contingency of 10% of the construction cost will be used to cover both the unknown and those items listed above. So the cost of the project contingency is $597,200. And the city manager or his designee would approve all contingency changes or expenditures. So the total cost needed is $5.95 million plus the alternates of $21,000 plus the kitchen equipment and exercise equipment of $281,000, plus the contingency of $597,000 is $6.849 million. The current unspent appropriated balance is $5.549 million, which results in an additional funding need of $1.3 million. This includes that 10% owner's contingency. Any contingency not spent by the city would be reported to the city manager and council for reallocation. The cost to finish this project, which is construction, owner provided equipment and furniture, and contingency, which calculates into $349 per square foot. Changing from a CMAR project delivery method to bidding it out traditionally will save the city a substantial amount of $2 million. So we'll be asking $2 more million if we'd have done that direction. So as you see here, this is the analysis and issues. We've got the pricing of all what's been allocated in all below for all your bond projects. So we flip the page here. It says, as discussed above, the recent capital project appropriation for this project is funded through the Park and Rec's bond is $7 million. The additional funds needed are $1.3 million, which brings the total project to $8.3 million. So staff is recommendation to council for reallocation of bond proceeds, provide the $1.3 million to complete the senior center, is to reduce the funding from Cape Fear River Park. It also can be done through bond premium. So with that, there are some other figures and that I have calculated. Of course, the project delivery method through a CMAR at risk versus a traditional, we've saved $2 million. This project is roughly 2 years older than it should be. And what happens in the past year is 2018 and 2019, we've had increases of construction costs 5% a year. In 2020, last year, it was 4.4% increase in construction cost. Material costs for wood alone has went up 40%. You've seen that. Steel prices are up 25% in the last year. GDP next year, this year, which is 2021, is expected to grow at 5% this year. This is going to continue the price increases. With the 2020 elections hopefully behind us and the vaccines here, late 2021 will produce increases across the board. So, currently, the construction contingency that we proposed typically is 5 to 10% on projects. We use 10%, but it also includes some of those city items listed in the CCAM. Soft costs typically range between 15 to 30% on a commercial construction project. Calculated with the new bid, our soft cost is 18.7%, which is on the low end, which is great. It's really great. It's putting all that money into the hard cost of the building. So I'm happy to say that. We are 2 months ahead of schedule right now. Back when we did the report card in October, the 5th, we said we'd be starting construction in April of 2021 and finishing in April of 2022. Currently, we're 2 months ahead of schedule. So if this is approved, the 25th, then they will start construction February 1st. So that's my report on this senior center project. It's a great project. Just like a tree, if you plant it today, it's going to grow. So thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councilman Wright.
I want to make the motion on this project. But to get some clarity, I have two questions. When will this project start, and when will the completion of the center be complete, given that we had a delay here in this area? Of course, I appreciate the presentation and the information. Of course, our citizens need to know that we're on the go. But can you give me some dates and times or a timeline of start and finish at this point?
Yes, I can, Councilman Wright. This is Cliff Isaac. Currently, it will start February 1st, pending the approval of reallocation of funds January the 25th, coming up at our next council meeting. Also, it's a one-year construction project. So we're looking at February 2022 it will be complete, barring any weather-related activities. The report card shows it being April 22, so we're 2 months ahead of schedule. So thank you for your question.
Mr. Mayor, I want to make the motion that we have reallocations of funds, that this project can get underway and be completed on the said timeline.
Mayor Colvin, my hand was raised.
Oh, all right. Councilmember Ingram, Councilmember Wright, I'll come back to you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. I have a few questions. Can I get a, what is the current budget set for the Cape Fear Riverwalk?
$3,681,153.
And you're proposing this to take 1.3?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
1.3 million.
Okay, city manager. How did this allocation come about? Can you, I guess, walk me through how this recommendation came?
Yes, ma'am. We're looking for the projects that we have not had a program for, and the council as yet has not developed a program for the Cape Fear River Park. It very well could be a passive park. It could be an active park, but we don't have any plans for it as yet. As council may recall, we also, because of our good credit rating and the strength of the bond package, we know that we're going to have additional money that council could choose to reallocate as part of the bond premium sale. But council has not decided to allocate that money yet, and we anticipate coming back in the near future for discussion of that topic, as well as discussion on other outstanding issues related to the Parks and Rec bond. But looking at the fact that of all the projects which have been commissioned, that is one that we do not have an active plan for. We have, we can say this, that even with a budget of, what would that be, $2.2 million left in that project, that is substantial money to do something with at that park. But as we work through the programming, I think we're slated to start that sometime this year as well with the landscape architect. Is that correct, Michael? That is on hold.
And
So
you
that
still
is,
are
yes, that's it. Thank
and
you.
when you were talking about the landscape architect, you were still talking about the Cape Fear Riverwalk?
River Park, yes, ma'am. There's not been a program yet established for that. As you and other council members may recall as well, there have been concerns about what we would put there because of potential possible flooding or partnering with other people. And so I'm looking at all the projects that we have available at the moment. That was the one that we felt that we could borrow or take the money from to finish out the work on the Senior Center West.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilman Wright, you were headed toward, did you have a comment?
Yes, yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to continue to make that motion with those reallocations as read.
So there's a motion by Councilmember Wright, there's a second by Councilmember Banks McLaughlin to approve as presented. in the CAM. Any further discussion on the, Councilman Dawkins?
Have we made a decision on who the contractor is going to be on this Senior Center West?
We have, the low bidder is Cooper Tasia out of Raleigh.
And that's the decision.
They're
Sir,
the low bidder.
Yeah, so what would happen would be, with council's concurrence tonight, we'll prepare, again, the vote is motion and second on the floor. If council approves, we would prepare the necessary financial paperwork and would get ready the contract or the award of that contract to Cooper Thistle.
ACO?
Yeah, and that will be on your probably consent agenda for your next meeting.
All right, very good. Thank you. Thank you.
Question, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Since the contract has been awarded to a contractor out of Raleigh, are we making sure that our stipulations for hiring our local contractors, that there's some local contractor involvement? Was that a part of the bidding process, or how are we doing that to make sure that our local, there's some local participation?
Thank you, Councilman Hare. Yes, that's part of the bid process in which they acknowledge to use local contractors, and we're asking for a list of that as well.
Was there a percentage, or just saying that there would be some involvement with local contractors, or did we put a percentage on it, on that participation?
One second.
Councilman Hare, this is Jay Tolan, Chief Financial Officer. When you do the only time you really can put some teeth into it is a construction manager or risk. Then you can put a base percentage, that's a requirement. With this one, it's a strong recommendation and that they fulfill with all their due diligence.
Well, let me ask you this. How would that be monitored?
Through the current process, when they turn in their pay apps, they certify all of their subs, and then that's the way we will know whether they're local or not.
Okay, but just one more thing, because this is always important to me and others on council. So we have made sure, because it was a part of the bid participation, that we are expecting local contractors to participate in the construction at the park, correct?
Correct.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council.
All right. Council, we have a motion by Councilmember Wright. Who is that? Okay, Councilmember Waddell and then Ingram.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. City Manager, where did we recently reallocate money from to put into the River Trail project?
The last reallocation that the council did was there was leftover money that had not been programmed. And we looked at a variety of projects and made a recommendation to council, which council accepted, to put that unallocated money in the various pots. At that time, we did not have the bids in hand for the Senior Center West.
I have two more questions, very, very brief questions. What is the timeline, the proposed timeline for the completion of the Cape Fear River Trail?
I don't have that in front of me at the moment. Cliff, do you?
There has been I do not have that in front of me. It got put on hold, of course, just a meeting or two ago. But
we can get you that information, ma'am.
Can get you that.
Okay, and my last question is, is there some economic impact that's expected from a completed river trail?
The River Park, it really depends again on the programming. And for many of the parks that we have, particularly one that would be along the Cape Fear River, you would have to figure out some way to get an access point down to the river and then again, the river would have to be navigable to a certain point. It is a very attractive piece of land, but we have not established a program for it yet.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Waddell. Mayor Pro Tem and then Councilmember Ingram. I think Councilmember Ingram's your second, so Mayor Pro Tem, you're first.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to ask some questions and some background. So the Senior Center West, we did expand it, making it larger. But one of the things that I think that the audience needs to know, that the kitchen was made larger so we could do Meals on Wheels, so it could benefit our residents out west, because as of right now, we only had one place that could do Meals on Wheels, and it was the center of town. So that is one of the reasons for the expansion, and one of the reasons that the senior center kitchen had to be bigger so we could help our citizens out on the west side. So with that being said, I wanted to let that be known. And then the other thing was, City Manager, I heard you say the $2.2 million by the time we go through the Parks and Rec bond, that we're looking with our great rating, that we're looking that might be something that we have at the end after we, is that correct?
That number's close. Currently, we have 1.4 million that's already kind of baked that we did on the first tranche.
Right.
We have close to $200,000 in interest revenue that we could allocate as well. And then if market forecasts stay the same as they are now, when we go to issue the next tranche next year, then you can anticipate close to another $1 million. So that's where you come to that 2.2-ish.
Okay, thanks. So basically, our city right now is in great, we've been in very good, we've been very fiscally responsible, and we're making our money grow a little bit.
That's correct. And then so you earn it on the front end with your investments, and then you earn it on the back end when you save it. When we go to market, we get really, really good interest rates.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Councilwoman Ingram?
Thank you. The only thing I have to say is, just looking at, when we look at the Parks and Rec bond or dollars and what's left, I'm noticing that we are going into a move money here, move money here, move money here. And I remember early conversations of us pretty much saying that we were aware that that's something we needed to be mindful of. I know citizens, not just in my district, are hopeful to see a Cape Fear River Walk, and citizens know what good and beneficial development can come from a river walk, or river park, I shall say. My apologies. I just think we need to be mindful, because the initial Cape Fear River Park was estimated at $5.2 million, and we keep piecemealing it, chipping away from it at it, just like we have done with other projects to complete another. I'm going to support it. However, I just think we need to be mindful of that. And that's really all I have right now about it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Council, there's been a motion by Councilmember Wright, a second by Councilmember Banks McLaughlin. It's been discussion. Look to you for your votes for this item. All right, Councilmember Ingram?
Green.
Councilmember Waddell?
Red.
Councilmember Wright?
Green.
Councilmember Hare?
Green.
All right, Madam Clerk, that is 9-1. Those voting in favor: Councilman Davis, Dawkins, Banks, McLaughlin, Wright, Colvin, Jensen, Ingram, and Hare, and Kinston. Those voting in opposed: Councilmember Waddell. Motion carries. All right, Council, look to you for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mayor.
All right, have a good evening.